Dong Haichuan is well known today due to the circle-walking martial art he created named Bagua Zhang, or 8 trigrams palm. His early life is shrouded in mystery and speculation, and he only arrived in Beijing quite late in his life. According to the generally accepted account, he arrived in Beijing, was castrated, and became a eunuch in order to serve in the mansion of the Manchu royal Prince Su. As the legend goes, it was at this mansion, while working as a general servant for Prince Su, that Dong Haichuan's remarkable martial skills were discovered. During one of the prince's opulent parties, in the course of conducting his duties, Dong Haichuan inadvertently displayed some of his extraordinary martial skills, much to the surprise of the then Prince Su and his guests. Dong Haichuan's legend and fame grew from there on. Had it not been for his employ under Prince Su, one could argue that Dong Haichuan's abilities would not have been discovered and the world may not have the martial art of Bagua Zhang today. Prince Su was not the name of a specific person, but rather it was a Manchu imperial title and princely rank conferred by the emperor. Many of these titles were granted by differing emperors unto bannermen for their contribution to the dynasty, be it for military actions or other. Much like other titles within the Qing governing system, there were ranks attached to these titles. As titles were hereditary and passed on to the descendants of title holders, the Manchus employed a system of degradation built in, which meant that a rank would drop as it was inherited by subsequent generations. This was to create incentives to the subsequent generations to make contributions to the empire in order to achieve rank promotions. However, there were 12 such princely titles that were inherited intact without any demotion in rank from one generation to the next, and that of Prince Su was one such title. These princes lived in mansions known as Wangfu in Chinese. Many of these mansions were quite extravagant estates, and quite a few were located in close proximity to one another and to the Forbidden City itself. In fact, the popular tourist attraction and shopping street known as Wangfujing got its name because there were 8 such princely mansions located in that area, which was around a well, or jing in Chinese. If you were to go to the currently listed last mansion of Prince Su in Nanchuan Ban Lane in Beixinqiao, hoping to visit the location where Dong Haichuan worked and was discovered, you unfortunately would be in the wrong place. While the last Prince Su of the Qing dynasty did live here, Dong Haichuan was never at this location. So where did Dong Haichuan work, and why was the location of the palace moved since then? Dong Haichuan served the 8th and 9th generation Prince Su, namely Huafeng and Longqing respectively. By the time the 10th generation Prince Su, Shanqi, inherited the title, Dong Haichuan had already retired and left the mansion. Shanqi served as Prince Su from 1898 to 1922, a tumultuous period for the Qing and China as a whole. His mansion was originally located in Dongjiaominxiang, which at the end of the 1800s was where the foreign legation quarter was located. Here, within the city wall, known as the Tatar Wall, foreign governments had established embassies and created a sovereign area where Chinese imperial law was not valid. The original mansion of Prince Su was located on what was then called Legation Street, and which is known today as Dongjiaominxiang. Today, Dongjiaominxiang is a popular tourist attraction for locals due to the historic buildings located here, which feature foreign and interesting architecture. Many people visit the area to take scenic photos, and it is especially popular with couples who come here to take photos as newlyweds in front of the many historic locations. While many of the previous buildings have been destroyed over the course of the last 100 years, there are still numerous historic buildings and locations still standing today. Memoirs of Beijing's interesting but turbulent history. One such victim of the chaos of the early 1900s was that of Prince Su's mansion. At the end of the 1800s, the Qing Empire was weakened following its defeat in the First and Second Opium Wars, as well as in the Sino-Japanese War of 1895. This was combined with government corruption and incompetence, as well as a series of natural disasters, including floods and drought, which the superstitious peasant population of Shandong and the northern plains of China blamed on foreign influence, and particularly on Christianity. This led to the rise of the Infraction, or the Righteous and Harmonious Fists, which were later named Infraction, the Righteous and Harmonious Movement, which are commonly known as the Boxers and the Boxer Rebellion. Starting in 1899, these Boxers began violently attacking foreign properties and specifically murdering Christian missionaries and Chinese Christians as well. Christians were their primary targets, whether they be foreign or local.
One of America's great novelists, then a missionary child, was at the time in China. Miss Pearl Buck recalls,
The Empress Dowager had issued an edict that all white people were to be killed, and many had been killed, especially in the north, in Shandong, where men, women, and children, missionaries and business people too, had been killed. But we were so fortunate because we lived in the province of Jiangsu, and we had a very good viceroy, an intelligent man, and he knew that it was folly for the old empress to think that she could gain anything by killing the missionaries and the business people, because there would be terrible retribution. And so he was so courageous as to insert a negative, a no, a not, into the imperial edict, so that it read, we were not to be killed. And that's what saved our lives.
The Boxers' primary practice was that of spirit possession, chanting incantations to deities which they believed possessed them and gave them their strength and skills and made them impervious to swords and guns. With the support of the Empress Dowager, they marched on Beijing in 1900, with their primary targets being Christian churches and missionaries and the foreign legations, as well as all Chinese Christians within the capital. The Boxers cut a bloody path to Beijing, where the foreigners and Chinese Christians alike were thrust into a state of emergency, as the Qing court had now officially supported the Boxer movement and the slaughter and wanton destruction they caused. The legation quarter, isolated in the capital, now prepared to defend itself against the assault from the Boxers and the imperial soldiers. About 3,000 local Chinese Christians sought refuge and protection from the Boxers within the legation quarter. In fact, it is said that a friend of Prince Su's was a Han Chinese Christian missionary, and the prince permitted him, along with many Chinese Christians, to take refuge in the courtyard of his mansion within the legation quarter. The siege of the area would last 55 days until foreign reinforcements arrived. The Qing court fled Beijing during this time, and Prince Su went with them. His mansion was occupied by the foreign powers as they defended the legation and protected the Christians. The siege of the legation quarter began on the 14th of June 1900. The foreign powers united in their defense, and the fighting during this period was intense. On the 14th of August, British reinforcements finally arrived at the legation quarter, thereby ending the siege. Throughout the course of the fighting during the 55-day siege, many buildings in Beijing and the legation quarter itself were destroyed, including much of Prince Su's mansion. Following the end of the rebellion and the signing of the Boxer Protocol on September 7, 1901, the area of Prince Su's mansion within the legation quarter was formally handed over to the foreign powers. He eventually moved to what is known today as Prince Su's residence in Beixinqiao. So where exactly is the location of Prince Su's former mansion today, where Dong Haichuan worked and was discovered? I referenced and researched numerous old maps, both from the Qing government as well as foreign maps of the legation quarter, which include references to Prince Su's residence. The difficulty lies in the fact that the area has changed tremendously since those periods, with many buildings and roads no longer in existence and many new ones constructed since. Conflicting records of former buildings and who took control of them further cloud the issue. Additionally, even employees at the new buildings and people in the area itself are unaware of the history of the location. However, it seems that the complex that is most likely covering much of the area where Prince Su's former residence stood is known as Zijin Bingguan, or Zijin Guest House today. The area is located directly across from St. Michael's Church on Dongjiaominxiang. St. Michael's Church was constructed in 1901 and is a popular tourist attraction. The Zijin Guest House was the formal location of the Belgian embassy. All of the buildings contained within it were constructed after the Boxer Rebellion and are in a European style. It is a large compound with numerous structures contained within it, as well as gardens. Walking along the road, one can see an older section at the base of the wall, which has been added to. Looking at some of the walls, one cannot help but feel these were crenellations constructed in case of yet another siege. In recent times, the Chinese government would often use the guest house to accommodate special guests and foreign dignitaries. Unfortunately, access is not open to the general public, and I had to peer in through gaps in its gate to get a look inside. While I did get some closure as to the location of Prince Su's original mansion, much like everything else regarding the mysterious Dong Haichuan, it was just beyond reach. One could argue this elusiveness is in line with the spirit of the art of Bagua Zhang he left behind for us. That concludes this episode on the original location of Prince Su's mansion. If you enjoyed this, please do click like and subscribe. It helps the channel to grow. Another way to support the channel is through our Patreon support site. There are regular support tiers as well as a third tier, the Huajin Online Learning Program tier, where you can learn the comprehensive system of Liang style Bagua Zhang as well as Hebei Xingyiquan. The program presents high-quality, in-depth lesson videos for you to learn these arts in full. If you would like a portrait of the founder of Bagua Zhang, Dong Haichuan, for your home, your school, or your training location, head on over to our merchandise store. The URL is listed here and in the notes.